most children with AS and adults do display some behaviours that are challenging, and it's going to happen. You just have to be aware of the types of behaviours that might happen and how you might manage them by distraction, by thinking ahead, by having other people available when necessary. These kinds of things do help, and you do get through it.
Challenging behaviour, I think, is different for everybody.
It's used to describe a huge range of things.
At some point during every day, there's something challenging, definitely.
He's been a hair puller at times, not really a biter, but he's punched and smacked and laid on the floor, thrashing around. Self-harming as well, he bangs his head and hits himself.
One of the huge everyday challenges for parents is that their children just love to rip up and shred their clothes, toys and nappies.
Refusing to put his boots on or get dressed.
9 times out of 10, he will not want to leave when he's had a good time, and there's not really anything you can do but just make him safe, make sure he can't do anything dangerous, and he just will sometimes flop to the floor for maybe an hour, and there's not much really you can do about it, just have to ride it out. It requires a lot of patience, which I don't always have in that situation. I find it difficult. I have a degree of patience, but it gets to the point where I get exasperated and I just don't really know what to do.
Harvey has sometimes bitten people and even drawn blood. That is very nasty, and he's done that to a carer in the past. It's not nice, and we need to stop this kind of behaviour. Pinching, biting, kicking, pulling hair, all those things that hurt are very, very challenging. But he has an insatiable appetite, so we have to hide things. Cat litter, cat poo, we have to be incredibly careful. Dog poo, even soil and leaves and rubbish, those things that he will try and eat from a park can be extremely challenging trying to stop him. We used to have to stop him going into the bins to actually get things out.
He's very, very challenging, and once he even pulled off the radiator from the wall, which you have to be very strong to do that.
Facebook is a really good place to discuss behaviour with other parents. James can have quite destructive behaviour. He often hits the television, mirrors and picture frames, and once he even pulled the curtain pole off the wall. He shouts out, hits and throws things at his siblings until they leave the room.
He can kick me while I'm trying to drive, he can pull my hair, and I've been driving on a main road, you know, motorway type road, and he pulls my head back like this, you know, if I can't drive, you know, that's very dangerous, very challenging to drive with him. So we have to put the harness on him, and ideally somebody sitting next to him to make sure that he's happy, he's got a toy, because if he drops his toy while we're driving along and he can't reach it, he's trying to tell me, I've dropped my toy, I want to reach it. So he reaches me to try and let me know, but I'm driving. You know, that kind of thing is incredibly challenging. Going into the bedroom in the middle of the night and finding excrement everywhere is not very nice, but these things happen. And also ripping up a nappy, can rip up a nappy that is soaked in urine, and this nappy, the gel goes everywhere, and it is horrific. It can be because they're trying to get a message across. We need to understand what the message might be, because they might be feeling unwell, or they might just be thirsty, or too hot, or too cold, and they're trying to tell us. And it's very, very important that we don't miss that message that they're trying to say.
If he's trying to tell you something and you're just not getting it, it definitely gets more, it elevates.
Of course, anxiety is another issue that can cause some challenging behaviour. They might be anxious about going somewhere or something new that's happening in their life, and they're displaying it by being challenging.
I think it is about, you know, communication, and like you said, it is about, I'm bored, I don't understand what's going on, I'm very anxious in this situation.
I truly believe that all Alistair's behavioural difficulties come from his lack of either understanding or his lack of communication. So it's about giving methods of communication and being consistent. School are managing the behaviour the same as we are at home, and that's kind of heightening it because he's got no consistency.
Sometimes it would be completely unprovoked. You know, so he'd be sitting quietly next to somebody and then suddenly lash out at them. Often it can be a sign that a seizure might be imminent, or, you know, he's tired after having had a seizure.
Alistair's got quite a lot of anxiety when he's changing places or changing activities, and if I try to help him move between activities too quickly, he will then demonstrate challenging behaviour.
Some behaviours can be very challenging when your AS individual is possibly self-harming. That can be through boredom and frustration quite often. Our son actually pokes his own eye. You get a sensation from doing that they actually start to enjoy, and it can damage the eye. Our son also bites his nails to an extent where he can pull off the whole nail, and they sometimes become infected because of that. Other children bang their heads or hurt themselves in various ways. It can be very challenging for the adult that is watching this, and we have to try and find out why they're displaying challenging behaviour, because it can be showing a sign of illness, some kind of message they're trying to display, or boredom or frustration.
Certain medication seems to make my child's aggression dramatically increase. I find it really challenging. I wonder if there's a link between the two.
Some of the things, such as poking eyes or poking their noses or biting their toes, might be through boredom to begin with, and then they realise that they get some sensory feedback from it, and then they continue doing it. But stopping them doing this, because they might be damaging themselves, is quite tricky. Of course, once children become teenagers, they might be displaying some symptoms of puberty, hormones rushing around their body that are causing them to have feelings that they haven't had before, and they find this challenging. So they display some behaviours that we perhaps haven't seen before, that they're trying to tell us, you know, why do I feel like this? And so you have to be aware of that. A lot of the behaviours that we find challenging are due to hyperactivity, and we need to keep their level of excitement at a level that is able for us to cope with, because if they get overexcited, that is when a lot of this very challenging behaviour can occur. So we just have to try and assess the situation that we're going into and what are his needs going to be. Make sure we've got food and drink with us. Make sure that we've looked at what clothing he's wearing, that he's not too hot, too cold. Make sure that we're not going to have to wait somewhere, that we keep him moving while and able to move around himself where he wants to go while somebody else waits in the queue, or something like this. You just have to try and work out the best way to manage any behaviours that are going to occur.
I mean, you learn all along the way the different strategies that work. Sometimes even going to the conference and seeing how somebody else deals with their child when they flop to the floor or bang their head or sit and try and give them time out. There's lots of different strategies you can try, and a lot of it's trial and error with your own child as to working out how you break the behaviour. Angelman children or adults just love eye contact. So as soon as they lose that, they've lost your interest, and suddenly they're trying desperately to get that back. If we suddenly become silly, do a star jump or just something, a little slapstick, or whisper in his ear maybe, are all things that might stop him from doing that and just start thinking about something else. But you know, it can be exceptionally emotionally draining, and as a parent dealing with it, I said 24/7, through the night, bad sleep patterns, they're all things that make my moods and behaviours bad. So they're all things that can contribute, which they just can't tell us.
Sometimes I feel sorry for my parents because they might get really hurt by my brother, and they can't tell him just, oh, stop doing that, because he won't understand them. He'll just carry on doing it. It's really scary. He makes massive bruises on their arms, and he's pulled chunks of hair out of my mum, and he's drawn blood before.
My child keeps getting really frustrated around her time of the month. I try to stay calm, but she still takes it out on me. Sometimes I feel like I'm her punching bag.
The aggressive behaviour that hurts, you know, that becomes challenging, because, you know, getting hit is not very nice. And seeing you and hit other people, I always found that really difficult.
It's just upsetting to witness when they're that frustrated, that angry, that the only way to communicate that is to hit themselves repeatedly or to self-harm. When he's lashing out at himself and lashing out at me, I find it really hard to not get angry back. I do have to walk away and allowing his time, allowing me my time to calm down as well, and then go back with a calm. So if he sees that I'm stressed, then he will mirror that behaviour.
If you was to hurt yourself or cut yourself and you showed that pain, that would emotionally make him very unstable. He would go into quite a big meltdown on that one.
If people don't understand like who Harvey is, then they'd think he's just really aggressive. For a child, it could be quite intimidating seeing this like fully grown man, who's my brother, just like pulling someone's hair. They might think he's attacking them or something.
If I'm out and about with friends and they witness it, I think they are quite shocked. With that Carmel's down, he likes just to be gripped and held really tight. And again, that can look a little bit off-putting, but he will fight it initially, and then that will bring him down and that will calm him down.
You know, you wonder if you're being judged for restricting him, but actually, you know, he would just be out of the seat all the time.
I'm doing my best to parent Jack in the ways that I know how, and I try to ignore the comments that come, but they do come and they do hurt.
When we've been walking down the beach on holiday and he sort of just puts his hand out and touches an old lady in the wrong place, and they get very upset and they don't really understand as much. He's thrown rocks because he's seen other kids throwing rocks and throws it and then hits someone on the back of the leg. So it's quite difficult to explain that inappropriate behaviour to other people. Generally, the only people that we find that are sympathetic or are understanding are people that have some connection with a family or sibling with special needs. That's the only time we really find you really get any sort of sympathy or empathy. And sometimes I have to grab Jack quite hard because, you know, I'm scared that he might go into a situation. That's challenging, how you're perceived by the outside world. And that's not very nice. That's quite upsetting because that puts you quite on edge, how you are seen. You can bring you down very quickly if you don't get any help. I mean, we don't get any real help in terms of, you know, from professionals and stuff like that. So, and we just can't find anybody. We try. We really want to get Jack a male carer that can stay with him for, you know, a long time, but we just find it really difficult to find someone to do it. And we'd like it because we find that, you know, we'd like a bit of a break, but we do get respite, so we do get some help.
I think you manage, you learn to deal with it. You learn, I think, over time. At first, it was a bit of a shock to me because I had never sort of experienced the level, you know, when I first met Harvey, I was told, oh, you know, he can be really challenging. And for a while I was like, oh no, you know, he's fine. And then we had an incident in the car where he was really kind of challenging, and I was like, right, okay, I get it. And it was kind of scary. I do understand why a lot of Angelman's children and people have a lot of carers.
We have found in the past that some people find Harvey too challenging. We have had new carers come to the house who haven't come across a person like Harvey before, and they've said they don't want to do the job. That does happen. Then again, we've had other people who understand why he's doing these behaviours, and they just get it. And in fact, they fall in love with Harvey and they want to work with him, and it's absolutely lovely. So we've got to just find the right people. If you get the right fit, then everything works.
I hadn't really thought that this might be something we'll be dealing with forever. But I suppose because it becomes almost the norm that you forget, you know, you're in your own little bubble really, that, you know, it is difficult, but you find ways of managing it. And increasingly, I think, you know, as his communication skills have got better, then those difficult behaviours have, on the whole, become less. I think he has become, you know, much more settled. Once he's familiar with people and places and that sort of thing, I think in general he's much more settled, and his behaviour is much easier to manage than it has been at some points in the past.
Some of the behaviours that our son displays are quite challenging to us, very challenging to us sometimes, but we do manage. We have learnt when these behaviours are likely to happen. When he's getting overexcited, they're more likely to happen. And we know when to try and take him away from a situation that's overexciting him, and when to distract him with other toys or some snack or something that might distract him. Try and change the situation, try and take him somewhere else, do something else, bring somebody else into the situation that will distract him. And those things do help enormously.
Someone will be able to help you with something somewhere down the line. I think sometimes you want to run away, you want to just escape. Try not to, but just keep going. Find someone that knows, find support. There's always someone that's been through something similar, and they might have different strategies. But just try and keep calm and have a glass of wine.